Good morning, guys. Today, guys, we're gonna see a new topic. It is basically the French poetry and drama before the 19th century. As you have already made some summaries, we're gonna see basically that there are different types of writers in different moments. This is really important, guys, for you to understand the major authors in these times. We have a bunch of them, but I choose two. I chose two because I consider that they were like the most representative. Obviously, we're gonna see more in the future in next classes. The first one that I want to mention is Charles d'Orleans. Charles d'Orleans is considered as one of the first or considered one of the finest French poets. What does that mean? That he was really talented. He was really talented. And also, he was really rich. His family was really rich. Why? Because he was born in an aristocratic family. His father was Louis d'Orleans, and his grandfather was Charles V. So imagine, he was really important because his grandfather, Charles V, was one of the most representative men in all history of France. We have, guys, some of his poems that basically, there were ballads. Remember, the ballads are like songs, and also chansons. Chansons, guys, means all that types of stories that talks about heroes, that are chansons, that talks about heroes, that talks about men that were really important, like knights, legends. So that is a chanson. And also, he sometimes made allegories. What are allegories? Allegories are poems that represents the reality in a different way, not with the literal words that we can understand easily, but with another types of ways to represent the reality. Also, his themes were love, chivalry, as I already told you in the chansons. They talk about all the knights that kill dragons and all that types of legends that we know in the medieval times. And also about his aristocratic lifestyle. His poems changed during his time of where he was alive. His later poems, as you read over there, were less idealistic and reflected some of the hardships he had suffered during his lifetime. As you know, all authors, guys, they will show their emotions, they will show their experiences in the time that they are writing. Why? Because we are humans and humans express feelings. One of his literary works that we can see over here, basically is the same as the top. We're gonna talk about the love and chivalry. The next author, guys, and the last one. Why the last one? Because we're gonna see a video and you will know that explain his life. And it's called Francois Villon. And Francois Villon, guys, is one of the most important authors because also he was called the criminal poet. And we're gonna know why he was called that. After seeing the video, guys, I want you to make a summary of this video, okay? You will have that assignment to do a summary of this video.
Francois de Montcorbier, or Francois Deloche, otherwise known as Villon, was born in Paris, probably in 1431. At this point in time, Paris was full of social troubles due to the occupation by English soldiers. Because of this, there was a huge spike in literature which spoke of the conditions in this era. Villon came from very humble beginnings, having been born into a very poor French family. His father died when he was very young, and his mother was illiterate and did little to provide for her son. Fortunately, a man by the name of Guillaume de Villon took him under his wing and raised him as his own son. He was a very religious man who was a member of the clergy in the church of Saint-Benoît-le-Bretonne and was also a professor of canon law. Villon stated that his foster parent was more than a father to him, and it was from him that he got the name that he is now known for. When he was a young boy, probably aged only 12, he started to study arts. Following years of education, he eventually earned his bachelor's degree at the age of 18 from the University of Paris. During his time there, he was involved in several pranks, such as stealing precious stones from older ladies, as well as many brawls with fellow students. Despite tensions with authorities for these minor actions, he carried on studying, and in 1452, only 3 years later, he had obtained a master's degree. By now, Villon was very well educated, and the details of his work demonstrated his considerable knowledge. He had an in-depth understanding of medieval ideals. However, he frequently reversed the values that existed at the time, and instead celebrated the life of lower-class delinquents destined for the gallows. The following 3 years of his life are clouded in mystery. There's no information regarding what he did after obtaining his master's degree. Most likely, he continued to dedicate his time to the arts, mainly focusing on writing. One evening, on the 5th of June, 1455, Villon was taking a stroll with a young woman and a priest. While passing by the Rue Saint-Jacques, he was attacked for an unknown reason by 3 men, Breton, Jean Lahadi, a master of arts, and a priest called Philippe Chermoy. A fight ensued, and the level of violence quickly escalated, as knives were drawn in self-defense. The initiator of the fight was determined to have been Philippe. He was the one who provoked Villon and drew first blood by cutting his lip with a large dagger. In response, Villon got out his small dagger that he hid under his cloak and stabbed him in the groin. With Philippe still trying to continue his attack, Villon struck him on the head with a large stone. Philippe finally collapsed to the floor. After the incident, Villon and his companions fled the scene before they were discovered. As a result of the scuffle, Philippe died of his injuries. Not too long after, Villon was identified as the man responsible for his wounds and was sentenced to banishment. But supposedly, before his death, Philippe forgave Villon. Thanks to this, and the help of his adoptive father, in January 1456, he received a pardon for justifiable homicide from King Charles VII, meaning his sentence was left without effect. It's due to evidence from the court that led to some confusion about his true name, as there's information of 2 pardons, one referring to a François de Loche, and another with the name François de Montcorbier. In any case, whatever his true name may be, he is always known, and will be, as François de Villon. Despite being a well-educated man, he frequently faced humiliation by the upper classes, and took a liking to spending his time with pickpockets and prostitutes in taverns. Furthermore, Villon had little success with his writing, and didn't earn much money. The huge wealth disparity that existed was one of his motivating factors that filled the young man with a passion for equality and the need for some wealth. The situation he found himself in led to him taking action. In late December 1456, Villon, accompanied by a group of students, broke into the chapel of the Collège de Navre and stole 500 gold crowns. With the robbery a success, he fled Paris, hoping that away from the city, he had no chance of being caught. During his time away from Paris, he wrote his first autobiographical poem called The Lay, often called the Petit Testament. For many months, the group of thieves were completely free, with no one suspecting of them. In fact, it wasn't until March that the police came across the robbery. After 2 months of investigation, the authorities finally tracked down the group of student robbers. This was mainly thanks to one of the robbers called Guy Dabari. He was very indiscreet and would frequently boast about his accomplishments. A year passed and eventually Dabari was arrested. After an extensive interrogation and possibly torture, given the circumstances of the medieval period that they were living in, he gave evidence against Villon, accusing him of being the ringleader, as well as giving information that he was currently in Angers, organizing other heists. Because of this vital information, Villon was caught and convicted. His sentence was banishment. During this time, he joined a group of wandering thieves and stayed with them for various years, avoiding Paris at all costs. His time wandering isn't documented. The next record of Villon is in 1460, while he was spending time with the Duke Charles d'Orléans. The Duke was an aristocratic poet that also had troubles with the authorities. He was well treated under the protection of the Duke, but his time there was short-lived. Villon was caught for an unknown minor offence, probably by the order of the Bishop of Orléans. He spent the summer of 1461 in the prison at Meung-sur-Loire, and while there he was starved and treated very badly. In his writing, he spoke extremely negatively of the Bishop Thibault d'Aussigny, who held the See of Orléans. This implied that he probably had something to do with his imprisonment. In any case, Villon managed to escape on the 2nd of October, while everyone was distracted with the passing of King Louis XI through the town. It was later in the same year that Villon wrote his most famous poem, Le Testament. At this point in his life, he was only 30 years old. It's considered to be his greatest work by critics and by Villon himself. Due to its success, it later became known as Le Grand Testament. By autumn of 1462, he was once again back in Paris. However, it wasn't long until the police noticed his return. He was again imprisoned for a minor offence, and while in custody, the authorities realised who he was. The old investigation regarding his robbery of the Collège de Navarre was dug up, and he was imprisoned for theft in a place called the Fortress, a prison that once stood in what is now known as the Place du Châtelet in Paris. With no other option, he paid for his bail and was released. Shortly after this, he was involved in a fight which led to François Ferreborg having serious wounds. He was again arrested, but this time he was also tortured and was finally condemned to death by hanging. Villon appealed this decision, and the Parliament finally decided on the 5th of January 1463 that he was to be exiled from Paris for 10 years. After this, nothing else is known of Villon's fate. Some authors suggest he was probably broken spiritually as well as physically following his exile from Paris. With nothing and nowhere to go, Villon's death was probably near. It could have been due to a drunken fight outside a tavern, or in a dark cell, or maybe, as he always feared, in the gallows. It's something we will never know. Although his poems gained little recognition or success during his life, today, Villon is potentially the best-known French poet of the Middle Ages. Thank you everyone for watching this video on...
As you see, guys, François Villon was a really important author and also a curious, right? A curious author. A curious author in which we can say that the criminal poet is really a criminal, right? But, well, it's an interesting fact. Please make a review of these two authors, and try to make a summary of both of them, okay? In your notebooks of Francois Villon and also of Charles d'Orleans, okay? About these two. So that will be the assignment, guys, and basically that's for today. That will be everything for today. Have a nice day, and also the homework, guys, I will not upload it today, but tomorrow, okay? Bye, guys.